So when I turned 26 years old, I got a PhD in electrical engineering. Not only that, I also made a lot of money while getting my PhD. How? Well, the answer is pretty simple. I learned some things, which I'm about to share with you in this video, that allowed me not only to help get my PhD at 26, get my dream job at NASA, which is where I'm working right now, but also make a ton of money in the process. The best part is, I still traveled the world, I still went to 35 countries, I still played a lot of Rocket League, played a lot of video games, and I just managed my time in a way where I didn't burn myself out or do anything that I absolutely hated. So I'm about to give you the exact blueprint. I'm gonna show you 5 steps how you can follow something like this. Even if you don't want to get a PhD, even if you don't want to, I don't know, move on, study engineering, do any of that thing, I'm gonna transfer the intellectual property to you, the thinking process that I followed, such that you can hopefully take it and apply in any other area of your life. Again, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ali Alqaraghuli. I'm a NASA Postdoctoral Fellow, and I've done a lot of crazy things, which I'm not gonna tell you about. Maybe I'll tell you about in the end of the video, but I'm gonna first dive into the strategy. I'm gonna go through steps 1 through 5, tell you exactly what I did to achieve this. And I wrote them down, so I make sure I don't forget them. So I put a lot of preparation in this video. So the very first thing I did was that I did my research, and this is something that you should do as well, which is if you're in college or in your high school, or you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, figure out what the options are. And the way I did that is when I was an undergrad, I did a lot of internships. I interned at a company called Northrop Grumman. I interned at the NASA Kennedy Space Center. I got involved in a ton of projects. I did undergraduate research. I've done tons of undergraduate research. And a lot of the things I did at first were unpaid. So basically, my focus as an undergraduate student was figure out what my options are, explore my peripheral vision. And this is where I see students make a big mistake. And this is something I did exceptionally well, and you should learn from me, which is if you're in college or if you're still young and you're kind of like figuring out what you need to do, you need to have a wide peripheral vision. You cannot like laser focus and lock in on one thing. If you're Mark Zuckerberg and you discovered that you can build Facebook at like, I don't know, 20 years old, that's a unique case. But if you're still trying to figure out what you want to do, you need to have strong peripheral vision. So this is you right now, and this is your field of view. And let's say this is a major that you pick. Let's say like, I don't know, mechanical engineering or whatever, or I don't know, biology or whatever. A mistake most people make is that they lock in on this thing and they think like it's the only thing they should do and whatnot, which is ridiculous. If you're like young, like if you're sub 30, if you're especially sub 25, and especially if you're still in college, like you don't even know what you don't know. You don't know yourself. You don't know anything about yourself. So how the hell are you gonna make an assumption that like you know exactly what you want and whatnot? Instead, what I would encourage you to do, which is what I did, which is instead of like lock in on like, let's say this is like classes, assignment, whatnot, have a wider peripheral vision, where you're gonna see other things like, hello, there's another major here, aerospace engineering. Hello, there's electrical engineering. Hello, there's electrical engineering projects. Hello, there's a club you can join. Hello, there's like Google where you can search like how much do PhD students make. Did you know that PhD students in the United States, especially in engineering science, get paid? I got paid to do a PhD. Isn't that crazy? Most students don't even know that. But for a master's program, then that's a different case. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to develop like a strong peripheral vision and do your research on all the different possibilities. Again, if you're a young person, do not go with the assumption that you've like figured it out or not. If you have, good for you, go for it. But I'm willing to bet there's a lot you don't know about yourself. I'm freaking 28, and this weekend I learned something about myself that I didn't know. Like you're always learning things about yourself, and you should always keep an open mind. As you get older and older and older, then yes, your peripheral vision becomes a bit more focused and you start locking on things that you want. But if you're at a stage in life where you still don't fully know what you're doing, then the best thing you can do is do your research, keep your options open, talk to as many people as you can, show up to as many events as you can. Just like try to figure out what it is that you're trying to do. It is more important to figure out what to work on than it is to work hard. I'm gonna say it again. It is far more important to figure out what to work on than to work hard. Once you figure out what to work on, then go work as hard as you can. Your job number 1 is figure out the thing that you need to work hard on. And again, the way I did it is I switched my major in college 4 times. And when I was in high school, I talked to all sorts of people about, should I study music? Should I study engineering? Should I do all these things? And when I was an undergrad, again, I did all these different things that helped me figure out what I need to do. And towards the end of my undergrad, I stumbled upon a professor whom I was like, hey, can I come help you for free? Crazy, I know. A lot of people I see comments that are like, I don't wanna work for free. I only wanna get paid work. I am not a slave. Well, good luck. Good luck gaining experience when you have literally 0 skills. Like when you're an undergraduate and you have no skills, like you have to be valuable in one way or another. And the way someone like me did it is I just went to a bunch of professors and I was like, hey, I will help you for free. And your current research project is very interesting. This is what I'm going to contribute. And if you're like at base, obviously, ideally you want to get paid, but if that's not an option, like your number 1 priority is to get good. get really, really good. If you're not good, you're just not good. No one's gonna hire you. You're like, job number one is to get really, really good, which brings me up to point number 2. So that's point number 1, is expand your peripheral vision, do your research, know the options, and that already helped me make my first $150K because my PhD program basically paid me $30,000 per month or so. Oh, I'm sorry, $30,000 per year, close to $35,000 per year. So that's first step. Second step is, again, what I'm gonna say, which is like, set yourself up properly. What I mean by that is like kind of going off the first point where the very first piece of advice is you want to expand your vision. The second piece of advice I would have is just get really good. I know this sounds very basic and it sounds kind of very, but unfortunately on engineering forums or on college forums or not, I see a lot of like what I call like victim mindset, or like, oh my God, professors suck. Oh my God, no one cares. This is the real world. Like, no one cares. I'm sorry. Like, you have to get really, really good. You have to just get really good. How do you get good? You watch YouTube videos. You read books. You go talk to people. To give you some examples, when I was in college, when I was an undergrad, I was not, like the first 2 years, freshman, sophomore, junior year, I did not go to a single party. I think I went to my very first ever college party when I was a senior. Isn't that crazy? Now, you don't have to go as crazy as I went, but the idea is that, like, at the end of the day, you have choices, and you're like, okay, I have time and I have mental bandwidth. Do I want to spend it working on things that help me improve? Or do I want to just like keep doing things that like other people are doing and then just figuring it out? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with either way. Like, I am not a self-improvement guru. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you that what I did to help me achieve that thing. And again, if you want to join, if you want to waste your time, like, that's fine. But you need to get really good, because when you're good, you have options. So the reason I was able to make money while I was in my PhD program, and I'm going to talk a bit more in detail about like internships I did and whatnot that helped me get paid in parallel, is I was simply good. Like, I needed to be good enough to get into a PhD program, and I need to be good to have an advisor invest in me. And then I'm going to talk more in detail, steps through 5, more tactical things I did. But the idea is that your job as an undergraduate is A, figure out what you want to do, B, be good, like build skill sets. Now again, how do you be good? You just laser in on skills that actually matter. Learn how to design, write code, learn how to design things, learn how to write good emails, learn how to communicate, learn how to write reports that are organized. Like, just be as good as you can so that you can be valuable. So when the time comes, you can be someone who is valuable. Which brings us to step number 3, which is, I'm gonna get like a bit more technical here in terms of also the PhD. Pick collaborative advisor. Now, this is going to be a very relevant point because I would not have done a PhD had it not been for my advisor. I'm going to say that one more time. One of the biggest reasons I did a PhD was because I met the right advisor. So a PhD is very different from master's and bachelor's. It's not like you join a program and you just take a bunch of classes and that's it. In a PhD program, you're paired with a professor who does research, and you work together to expand the state of the art or to do research together. And that's something extremely, extremely important, because this one person that you pick literally like controls your life and dictates your destiny. That person has a lot of power over you. So if I were you, and if you were me, we would probably want to pick someone who's very collaborative, open to suggestions, open to feedback. And this is something especially tough to see in academia, because I had a lot of professors who were great people, exceptional technical abilities, but I could tell they were either like too stubborn, too egotistical. They were kind of like really tough to kind of reason with. My PhD advisor, before becoming my PhD advisor, the number one skill I looked for was someone who's very communicative and collaborative. And I remember there's even a time where in my school, University of Buffalo, they made a video about me being like a star student and whatnot, and they asked me to talk about my advisor, and I said my advisor was a leader but also a teammate. And I remember that made a lot of people go crazy, because they're like, it's your advisor, it's your boss, how are you calling that person a teammate? And in my head, I'm like I felt bad for all the other people, because I'm like, if your advisor is not like collaborative enough that you feel like you're part of a team and you have just as much importance in the relationship and to what you bring to the lab, like, that really sucks. Like, you're in this kind of very hierarchical dynamic. So I picked an advisor who was always very open to my suggestions. He was very smart in that he saw that I was smart. And while majority of people I've worked with my whole life would always be like, you're too young, you don't know what you're talking about. Or like, that idea is too crazy. Or like, that's too stupid, you should stick to this thing. You should do that, you should do that. My advisor was not like that. My advisor was always like, okay, that's a good idea. What's the idea here? Okay, what's the physics here? Okay, what compels you to do that? And majority of time, as long as I provided evidence for why like an idea or a suggestion I had was good, he was like, fine, go and try it. And that was crucial, because part of how I made more money as a PhD student is I did a lot of internships. I did so many internships. I did internships in laser communication. I did internships in error control. I did an internship at the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. I did another internship at a company called TTM Technologies, which helped me work on X-bands. And I was accumulating skills and money through these opportunities. But the good news is, because I was communicating to my advisor how I'm going to bring this value back to the lab and back to him as well, I was pretty clear on, hey, this is going to be I'm going to get all my work done. I'm going to publish more papers than anyone else in the lab. I'm going to work harder than anyone else in the lab. The only thing I ask is give me the opportunity to go to these internships and go to these other opportunities so that I can go learn things. And then guess what? I'm going to bring it back and teach it. And that's exactly what happened. So in my lab, I was the first ever student to work on space communication. My advisor had already was kind of dancing with the idea, but I was kind of the trigger. My advisor was working on very high speed communications, and I was working on space things. And then we met and we joined forces. And now space is one of the biggest divisions in that lab. I think now we have 5 or 6 PhD students working on space. And when we started, it was just me. So that's a very important thing, is having an advisor or a boss who is extremely collaborative, open suggestions, that sees that as long as you know what you're doing, is going to give you a lot of opportunities. And I think that's something that's extremely important. Now that brings us to point number 4, which is something that helped me make a lot of money while being in a PhD program is self-confidence. But it's not what you think. It's not like I have this magical self-confidence trait. I'm going to finish this based on physics. What does this mean? Self-confidence based on physics. What does this mean? Well, this is good news, because if you understand physics, it means you can be extremely self-confident. I'm going to prove it to you. Most people think of self-confidence as some kind of biological trait, or something that some people either have it or don't have it or whatnot. And yes, maybe that's true in some cases. That was not the case for me. I had zero self-confidence growing up. I had very, very little self-confidence. And the way I developed self-confidence was thanks to physics. What I mean by that is, I would start, for example, if I were to ask myself, I would have beliefs oh my God, I'm not going to succeed in engineering. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to fail. I'm going to blah, 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 all this kind of negative self-talk. And then one day I just started asking, what is the physics that backs this up? What is the truth behind this? For example, when I was in engineering school and I was in my first year and I bombed my first ever exam, and I was like, oh my God, am I ever going to make it? And then I would just go and look up how many people graduate engineering school every year. And I see it's tens, hundreds of thousands. And then I would think, okay, well, if these other people are doing it, is there a reason I would not do it? And then, for example, when we would even later on in my research, where I would suggest ideas, I would suggest building these deployable antennas for CubeSat, or these mega arrays and whatnot, and the instant impulse reaction that people would give me is oh, that's not going to work and whatnot. And in my brain, I would just ask, well, okay, why would it not work? What's the physics behind this? So self-confidence became something I gained because I completely divorced myself from ideas and situations and things of that nature. And I started thinking only in terms of physics. And to this day, even in my YouTube channel, in my part-time business that I'm running, in my current projects, whenever I say something, hey, we should do this, and someone says, this cannot be done, I say, well, why can't it not be done? What's the reason? What's the physics that's preventing it? Because if it doesn't violate mechanics or electromagnetics, I think it can be done. And people look at me and they're like, wow, you're so self-confident. You're so oh my God, you're so confident. But the reality is, my confidence comes from the objective understanding of physics. And just comes from the fact that, okay, if there's no physical reason why this thing cannot be done, then there's a good chance we can give it a shot and that it can get done. And this is true for getting good grades. This is true for landing projects, internships. This is true for how everything I see and do. And it's just hilarious because most people think that it's a personality trait. They think, oh, this guy is just very confident. No, I just ask myself, rationally and logically, what is the thing that's stopping us from doing the damn thing? And most often the answer is no. So then I shift focus from on myself to the problem. I'm a very external kind of thinker where if something goes wrong, I never beat myself up. I never I don't just sit down and say, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I don't ask if I like it or don't like it or how I feel. I just ask, what is it? This is what it is and this is what it isn't. and that kind of manifests as self-confidence to people, which is crazy. So if you want to develop like insane self-confidence, get a deep understanding of physics. Just ask yourself, what are Newton's laws and how do they determine the macro object? What are Maxwell's for electromagnetics laws and how do they determine the micro? And to be honest, again, hot take, I think mechanics and electromagnetics are like 99.9% of the relevant physics you need to make day-to-day decisions. Yes, I get it, quantum this, blah, blah, cool stuff, but I'm talking like applicable macro, like we humans live in the macro. So if you understand mechanics and electromagnetics, that's more than good enough to make insanely good decisions and to develop extreme self-confidence as a person, which brings us to point number 5, which is people. Now, this is one thing I was insanely good at. This right here is like a big hack. If you can just figure this out and leverage this, oh my God, this is like insane. Like one of the reasons I was able to make a lot of money in my PhD while getting paid to go to school was I was helped by so many people. I was helped by an insane amount of people. And now that I reflect on this, I figured out why people were helping me. And people were helping me because people, I learned this thing about humans, is if you go to another human and you're like, hey, I'm really trying to do this thing, and this thing is like what I want, and how do I do it? And they can sense your genuineness and they can sense your desire to improve. I think most people, especially let's say like in an academic setting, like professors, whatnot, like have this kind of idealistic desire for the world to improve. And if they see you as the person who's seeking the answer and working very hard to try to make something happen, my gut feeling is that gives them hope that you are the person that's going to go and improve the world and improve the current state of living for many people. And that's because life is kind of like very messed up. Like we're still kind of figuring things out as humans. No one knows what we're doing here. There's a lot of like bad things happening, but everyone kind of has hope, and people like seeing someone as a beacon of hope, and that gives them the desire to help. Obviously, there's another kind of help, which is more transactional, which is, hey, I'm going to do this for you, you do this for me. That's cool as well. In fact, you can, like, the ideal is that you try to marry them together where, like, again, you try to make yourself as valuable as possible and you try to make yourself, like, as good as possible, and you offer that advice to other people. And then in return, they also see your genuineness and they see that you're, like, really determined to make it happen. That's really going to get a lot of people on your side. So if you're someone who's trying to like figure things out, trying to make it happen, and you genuinely have a desire to help someone somewhere, to make a difference, to do things of that nature, then I would say do not be afraid to walk up to people and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to go. I see you're very good at that one thing. What's one piece of advice you have for me? Or like, try to be as specific as possible. And I'm going to give you, now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to give you some examples. I get a lot of emails that are like, hey, I'm an electrical engineering student, and give me advice. And I see that email, I'm like, I've made a million videos on electrical engineering, and you just told me you're coming from my channel, which means you haven't done your research, not worth my time. However, when people are like, hey Ali, this like I watched this thing, you said this very specific thing, I have this very specific questions, thank you, that I'm a lot more compelled to help that person, because I'm like, okay, that person has done the work, has done the research, and is not wasting my time. Is actually my time is invested in the right place by helping that person. So the idea is that to this day, I kind of have debt from being helped by so many people, and I continue to being helped by so many people. And the way I do it is I just try to help as many people as I can as possible. But I also observe, now that I'm in the mentor's position, when back then I was like the student or the mentee, is I notice who do I help and who do I not help. And I usually help people who have done their due diligence and who genuinely like are seeking improvement and are genuinely seeking like help. And again, these kind of people give me hope that I'm like, wow, this person's really trying hard and he's being like skilled at the thing that they do. So again, definitely if you try to do things on your own, the lone wolf idea is very stupid. Like the most magical thing about life is people. So make sure that you find as many great people as you can, ask them for help, do your due diligence, get as good as possible, and then they're going to be a lot more likely to help you. And always communicate your intentions. Like communicate your intentions to people. I know there's a lot of crap on social media on like how to, I don't even know like how to like be cool and how to like, and you have to withhold the truth and you have to, I think that's very, very stupid. Like one thing that has really helped me in my life is I am just brutally honest. Like I just walk up to someone and I say, hey, I want to do this thing and whatnot, and most of the people, some people are turned off by it. Some people are like, I don't know, but a lot of people like it. A lot of people appreciate honesty, transparency, and a lot of people appreciate seeing how hard I work at achieving the things that I do, and then I can see in their eyes that I am hope for them, that the world is going to be a lot better. So make sure you're that. Like, make sure you are becoming someone who other people look at as hope, that the future is good, that the next generation is going to be good, that the next whatever is going to be really, really good. So yeah, in summary, the things we spoke about is the very first thing, I did my research, I explored my option, I had very strong peripheral vision. Second thing I did was I was really, really good. I became good. I was not good initially, I became good through skills, joining clubs, talking to people, doing things like that. Third thing is I picked an insanely great advisor, because collaboration is very important, and I picked someone who helped me open up opportunities through internships so that I could make money. And then the fourth thing I did was I developed self-confidence based on physics. It's a very, very important concept. You should drill that in your head. And then finally, I was very good at finding the right people that helped me along the way. One of the people that helped me dramatically in my PhD was a fellow graduate student. He's now a professor of electrical engineering. His name is Arjun Singh. I have a video with him where we just sit in my room in Boston and talk about things. So if you think I'm pretty badass, that person taught me a lot of things. You should go learn things from him in there. I'll link the video somewhere. It should show up. That being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, love.